Hi guys, my name is Carrie and I'm going to be doing Autonomic Nervous System Basics. This is a review from One for One. It has focus for what I want to cover and how you're going to use it in medicine. So Autonomic Nervous System Basics. The autonomic nervous system includes the PNS and the SNS. The PNS is the parasympathetic nervous system and the SNS is the sympathetic nervous system. Let's draw it on the board. So I have autonomic nervous system. Draw that lower. Autonomic nervous system, which is divided into the gas and the brake. So the gas is sympathetic nervous system. I'm going to just use a plus sign. The brake is the parasympathetic nervous system. Most of you, if you've read your textbook or if you've had this course before, will know that the gas versus the brake. Sympathetic nervous system is associated with fight or flight. A lot of times if you're running scared S-less from a lion, what are you going to do? You need to make sure that you mobilize some energy so that your muscles have energy to work. You need to increase blood flow to the area. You need to increase heart rate. Everything is elevated. Your eyes need to dilate, so you need to be able to see and let light in so you can see what's chasing you. For parasympathetic nervous system, you slow down. It's called rest and digest. A lot of times your pinpoint pupils, that means your pupils are constricted. You're focusing in on your food. You're relaxed. Your GI tract is working harder. So sympathetic, what would happen to the GI tract? It would slow down, right? Because you want to make sure that your energy is used for the rest of your body so that you can get out of a situation that you need to or defend yourself. Parasympathetic nervous system, it's for when you're relaxed, rested, and you're just eating your food. So it's the brake for most organs in the body, and sympathetic is the gas. How it works is this. I'm going to test you on it. I'm sure at home you're going to think this is so easy, but I've done this in class and it's really funny to hear people say this. So let's say that my right hand is the gas and my left hand is the brake. Have you ever driven behind somebody going uphill and for some reason they're going faster but their brake is on? I've had that happen. So they're stepping on the gas and they're stepping on the brake at the same time. The body is the same way. So you're constantly stepping on the gas, you're constantly stepping on the brake, and it depends on who presses harder, whether or not you're going to go faster, you're going to go slower. So if I'm stepping on the gas and the brake and I step on the gas, what happens? I go faster. What if I step on the brake? I go slower. Really easy. The body also works this way because I'm stepping on both at the same time. If I take my foot off the gas, what happens? I go slower. If I take my foot off the brake, what happens? I go faster. So let's try this again together. Tell me faster or slower. Faster. Slower. Faster. Slower. Faster. Slower. Faster. Slower. Faster. Slower. You get it? So the body plays around with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system that way. San, bean, san, amen, pan, am. These are all different pathways and also neurotransmitters and receptors that are associated with each pathway. So let's review what they are. The autonomic nervous system is divided into parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. Everything else is peripheral. So I know we didn't cover it in this one just because we're doing highlights of what we've studied before, but just know that the autonomic nervous system is basically extensions through the peripheral nervous system. The two that we focus on for class are pan, am, san, bean. 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 Say that 100 times fast and you will get tongue-tied. Pan, am stands for parasympathetic nervous system. Releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, ACH for short. So we can write acetylcholine. Acetylcholine binds to a nicotinic receptor. Nicotinic receptor. This is, when we study nervous system, we learned that there's two parts to parasympathetic nervous system. You have what we call a group of cell bodies here. Group of cell bodies is called a ganglia. So before a ganglia is called preganglionic. After a ganglia is called postganglionic. So parasympathetic releases acetylcholine. It binds to a nicotinic receptor. The nicotinic receptor causes the next nerve to release acetylcholine. Acetylcholine binds to a muscarinic receptor on a target organ. Whew, lots of information. But what do you need to know? Parasympathetic nervous system has muscarinic receptors. That's its specialized. So would it be the gas or the brake? It would be the brake, right? So if I stimulate muscarinic receptors, what pathway are they a part of again? Parasympathetic is the gas or the brake. It's the brake. So if I stimulate muscarinic receptors in the heart, would it cause the heart to go faster or slower? Slower. Remember, it's the brake. So if I stimulate muscarinic receptors in the heart, it would slow the heart. What about SANBean? SANBean stands for sympathetic nervous system. Releases acetylcholine, which binds to nicotinic receptors. Wow, that sounds the same. So parasympathetic and sympathetic have the same neurotransmitter and receptor at this little junction we call preganglionic. What differs is that SANBean, sympathetic, acetylcholine, nicotinic receptors have beta and alpha receptors that respond to epinephrine and norepinephrine. I have a chart that I love, and I really want to review that with you now, but we're going to hold off until we get this down. SANBean, SANBean, SANBean. Muscarinic receptors are associated with what pathway? Parasympathetic. Alpha, beta are associated with what pathway? Sympathetic. One more time. Muscarinic, parasympathetic. Beta and alpha, sympathetic. Sympathetic is the gas or the brake? The gas. Parasympathetic is the gas or the brake? The brake. Very good. So alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, ERAD, ERAD, E. Let's do that now. I am going to take this, the receptors found here, and put them into a chart of sympathetic receptors and how they work. What is a receptor? We'll cover that when we do the chart. So these are sympathetic nervous system receptors. I have location, where you find them commonly. That's not the only place. When you look at a textbook, they're going to show you different locations. These are high yield ones that I want you to know. We have the actual receptor itself. So I'm just going to draw a Y to represent receptor. Then we have what its function is, FXN for function. Then we have positive sign, which means agonist, and agonist means to stimulate or to encourage its normal function. And finally, we have a negative sign. I'm going to say a negative sign is what we call an antagonist. When you antagonize somebody or something, you go against them, you try and annoy them. So location. Let's do receptors first. Fast. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. ERAD, ERAD, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, ERAD, ERAD, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, ERAD, ERAD, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, ERAD, ERAD, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, ERAD, ERAD, E. I love this chart. I will test you on it as much as I can. Why? Because you're going to use it in medicine. You'll use it learning different drugs. You can make up a drug name, and if you find out that it has this receptor function, it's so easy to figure out what it does and what its extension is. Alpha 1 receptors and beta alpha 2 receptors. They're both found on blood vessels. What does ERAD, ERAD, E stand for? Let's come across that in a little bit. How many hearts do you have? You have one heart, so beta 1 receptors are found in the heart. How many lungs do you have? You have 2 lungs, so beta 2 receptors are found in the lungs. So I have beta 2 receptors in the lungs, beta 1 receptors in the heart, alpha 1, alpha 2 in the blood vessels, And beta 3, this one's a fun one, but we don't get to play around with it much. It's found on fat cells. Beta 3 receptors stimulates and excites fat cells to cause them to break down. If they had a drug in the market that stimulated beta 3 receptors, do you think women that were on a diet would buy it? I think so. Let's go back to that. We're not going to play around with beta 3 receptors. Let's focus on alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 2, ERAD, ERAD, E. Okay, so E stands for excite or contract. RAD, relax and dilate. E, excite or contract. R, relax and dilate. E, excite or contract. So what is the function of alpha 1 receptors? Excite or contract. It's like a light switch. If I take a light switch and I put it in this corner here on the board, I turn on the light switch, what happens to the function? Turns on the lights. Oh my goodness. I take that same light switch, I put it over here. I turn on the light switch. What happens? Lights turn on. Oh my goodness. Take that same light switch, I put it up there. I turn it on. What happens? Lights turn on. No matter where you put that light switch, the function is still the same. Same thing as these receptors. No matter where you put these receptors, the function is still the same. So if I put this on a blood vessel, how I remember what the action of alpha 1 receptors is I take my finger here, and I take my other finger, and I wrap around, and I make an alpha. It's almost like an alpha. So there's one finger inside. So it's an alpha 1 receptor. And what does it do if I squeeze really hard? It squeezes the blood vessel. It increases blood pressure. So alpha 1 receptors, when excited or contracting, will cause blood vessels to contract, right? What about an alpha 2 though? An alpha 2 receptor is also on a blood vessel, but what is its job? It relaxes and dilates. So no matter where you put these receptors, they have their functions. What if I was to put, let's say a beta 2 receptor on a blood vessel? What's the function of a beta 2 receptor? To relax and dilate. So what's it going to do to a blood vessel? Relax and dilate. What's going to happen to the blood pressure? It's going to go down. Okay, let's take beta 1. Beta 1, what's the function of beta 1? To excite or contract. So what would happen if I put a beta 1 receptor in the heart? What happens to heart rate? It goes up, speeds up, goes faster. What happens to stroke volume? That means how much is it going to squeeze out at one time? It's going to go up as well. So beta 1 receptors found in the heart will excite or contract the heart and increase heart rate. What about beta 2 receptors? Where do you put them? You have two lungs, so you put the beta 2 receptor in the lungs or in the airways, in this case the bronchioles. If I stimulate beta 2 receptors, what's going to happen? What's the function? It's to relax and dilate the airways so that you can breathe more. So let's see how we can play around with in terms of treatment. Alpha 1 receptors. Let's do beta 1. Someone comes into the clinic and they complain of having high blood pressure. So let's say, let's put the problem over here. What is it used to treat? So they have high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. What do you want to do to a beta 1 receptor? Do you want to encourage it so that it increases heart rate, it increases stroke volume, and it increases blood pressure? No, you don't. You want to do the opposite. So do I want to stimulate beta 1 receptors or block it? I want to block it. So there's a drug called Olol. And what Olol does is, let's draw that again so that you can see that. So what Olol does is, it blocks the normal function of beta 1. What is the opposite of excite or contract? To relax and dilate. So if I block beta 1, I will cause the heart to relax and dilate, and I will lower blood pressure. So Olols, like, I can use anything that ends with Olol. Atenolol. Atenolol is used in the treatment of high blood pressure because it blocks beta 1 receptors and causes the heart to relax and dilate. So heart rate goes down, stroke volume goes down, and blood pressure goes down. That's great. That's easy. Let's do the second one. Alpha 1 receptors. If I squeeze your arm, what happens to your blood pressure? It goes up, right? So what do I want to do with squeezing? Do I want to squeeze some more and make the blood pressure go up? No, I want to do the opposite. I want to relax it. So what should I do with alpha-1 receptors? Do I stimulate it, make it squeeze harder, or do I oppose it and make it release? I oppose it. So there are alpha-1 receptors or alpha-1 receptor blocker drugs. An example is Zosyn. Prazosin, terazosin, any kind of zosin. So we're going to say prazosin. Prazosin is used to block alpha-1 receptors in the blood vessel, which causes them to relax and dilate. So it is used in the treatment of high blood pressure again, hypertension. Let's keep going with that. If I block, excite, or contract, I get relax and dilate. But what do I want to do with alpha-2 receptors? Do I want to block it or do I want to stimulate its effects? Its function is to ready to relax and dilate. So what do I want to do? I want to encourage relaxation and dilation. There are two drugs on the market, typically that you hear, methyl dopa and clonidine. Methyl dopa and clonidine relax and dilate alpha-2 receptors or stimulate alpha-2 receptors to relax and dilate the blood vessel, which lowers blood pressure, so it's used to treat high blood pressure or hypertension again. Wow, that's so easy. This is stuff that you'll actually use in the clinic. Let's do one more. Somebody comes in and let's say that they have asthma. They have difficulty breathing. That means their airways are contracted, constricted. What do I want to give them? What do I want to do for them? Well, let's think about it. Where do you find beta-2 receptors? You find them in the lungs. What is their job? To relax and dilate the airways. So do I want to encourage its function or do I want to block its function? Well, I want to encourage the function. There's three major drugs that you see on the market. First one, epinephrine. Isn't that adrenaline? Yeah, we can use epinephrine. Epinephrine stimulates beta-2 to relax and dilate the airways and is used in the treatment of asthma. Let's keep going. Epinephrine is really short acting. It's immediate acting, but it's very short acting. What can I use that's an emergency inhaler that's a little bit long acting? Albuterol. Albuterol is your emergency inhaler. Albuterol stimulates beta-2 receptors to relax and dilate the airways in the treatment of asthma. Let's do one more. It's a little bit longer acting. It's not used as an emergency medicine, but it is used to as a long-term prevention. Salmeterol. Salmeterol is a beta-2 agonist that relaxes and dilates the airways and is used in the treatment of asthma. There's more that I can add to this, but we want to keep it simple. We want to enjoy this. So this is one of my favorite charts because there's so many drugs that you can play with. You can throw this alpha-1 receptor. Let's say I put this alpha-1 receptor on the urethra. And the urethra is the exit point from the bladder going out of the body so that you can pee. Let's say that there's a male and he has prostate problems and he has difficulty with peeing. Would you want to constrict the urethra so he has a harder time peeing, or would you want to maximize the flow? There's actually a drug called Flomax, and it's an alpha-1 blocker, tamsulosin. And what do you think it's used in the treatment of? And how does it work? So if I block alpha-1 receptors, it relaxes and dilates and opens the urethra so that the male can pee easier. Wow. Let's do the opposite. Female comes in and she's having a hard time holding on to her urine. She laughs really hard and sometimes it trickles out. What do I want to do to that same urethra? Do I want to relax it so that it trickles more? Or do I want to constrict it a little bit harder so that I prevent it from flowing out when I laugh or cough? Well, there's a drug called phenylephrine. And phenylephrine is an alpha-1 agonist that excites and contracts whatever it is. So in this case, it's going to excite and contract the urethra. And now they're not going to have problems of what they call urinary incontinence. When she laughs hard or she sneezes or coughs, she won't pee all over herself, essentially. Okay, so there's a couple of other things we can talk about, but this is the hardcore things I want you to focus on. Let's go. So alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, E rat, E rat, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, E rat, E rat, E. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, E rat, E rat, E. Sympathetic. We already said sympathetic nervous system is associated with fight or flight. It has alpha and beta receptors, responds to epinephrine, norepinephrine, and other drugs. So here's an extension of it. Sympathetic is from T1 to L2, and T1 is the vertebrae of the spine. So about the level of T1 is where the nervous system will extend from for sympathetic nervous system. Same thing. So these are all the different organs. So would it increase heart rate or decrease heart rate to stimulate sympathetic nerves? It would increase heart rate. What about the lungs? What happens if you stimulate sympathetics for the lungs? Would it open the airways or close the airways? Open the airways. So you remember, if you're running from something, you want to be able to breathe. You want to be able to get the blood flowing to different parts of the body. Do you want your digestion to be active? No, sympathetics will decrease digestion. It'll decrease urination. And let's move on to adrenal medulla. So AC, amen. You might have heard this mnemonic before. If you didn't, that's okay. Adrenal medulla secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine. Most of what is secreted is epinephrine. That's about 80%. And the remainder is norepinephrine, which is 20%. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. It is Pan-Am and cranial nerves 3, 7, 9, 10. And also pelvic nerves S2 to S4. So this is what I do for memory. 3, 7, 9, and 10. S2 to S4 keeps the P off the floor. S2 to S4 keeps the penis off the floor. S2 to S4 keeps something else off the floor. You figure it out. So here we go. This is still 3, 7, 9, and 10. Is this sympathetic or parasympathetic? Parasympathetic. Very good. So what would happen to the heart rate? Would it go up or down with parasympathetic? It would go down because it's the brake. What about lungs? It would actually cause the lungs and the airways to close up a little bit. Same thing, GI tract. What would happen with parasympathetic? It would encourage digestion. It would encourage urination. Good. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, E rat, E rat, E. Woohoo! This is the fun stuff. So you can take a look at that when you get a chance. Pause it. This is just a little bit more on functions for you to remember and recall. But on the board, we covered very specifics like the blood vessels, the heart, the lungs, and how we can treat with different drugs. Again, you can pause it and study a little bit more of what you want. But just understand this. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, E rat, E rat, E. What is the function of alpha 1? Excite or contract. What's the function of alpha 2? Relax and dilate. What's the function of beta 1? Excite or contract. Beta 2, relax and dilate. Beta 3, if we were to study beta 3, excite or contract. Very good. So let's actually try and test ourselves. If I give you, let's do blood vessels. So if I give you beta 2 and I stimulate beta 2, what's going to happen to blood? Are you going to have excitation or dilation, relaxation? You're going to relax. So this says dilation. Relax and dilate. What about alpha 1? What's its function? Excite or contract. So we said constriction, which is contract. So beta 2, dilate, beta 2, dilate, beta 2, dilate. Here's the pattern. Beta 2, alpha 2, relax and dilate. All the evens are relax and dilate. All the odds, alpha 1, beta 1, beta 3 are excite or contract. So there's a lot of patterns to play around with for this, especially if you're studying for medicine. And that is it for now. Let us take a break from autonomics.